Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? Today is what is today? Man, this January 8th for sure. I think it's Wednesday. Yeah, January 8th, 2025. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. I am coming to you live. At least I'm recording live right now. When you hear this, I won't be live, obviously, but I am right here in the thick of things in West Hollywood, California. I am about 30 minutes from the epicenter of the most prominent fire taking place right now, which they're calling the Pacific Palisades Fire. Since last night, there have also been two other fires that have sprung up in the surrounding mountainous region of the greater Los Angeles area. So I'm gonna show some footage, some video footage, some stuff that I've taken and draw a bigger picture, if you will, to what's actually going on out here. I also appreciate and love everybody that's reached out to me, that's texted me or tapped in or DM'd or WhatsApped or um, the thousand other ways that people seem to have to get a hold of you nowadays. And it's all love. I'm just saying, like, you realize, you start getting messages on WhatsApp. It's like, okay, international messages. Yeah, this is a big deal. But I want everybody to know that, like, all of Los Angeles is not raging in a fire. Like, from where I am, the sky is obviously heavily impacted, and I'm going to show some footage of that from earlier today. And yes, the air is dense and thicker than it normally is, and there's probably a lot of very negative chemical components in it at this point, or toxins at this point. I imagine that will increase as the days move forward and the wind continues to bring them our way and scatter them all over the area. But for right now, earlier today, I was out and about without a mask. I had a scarf with me to cover my face if I needed to, but I didn't feel like it was extreme enough for that. Plus, I only went to places in a direct vicinity, so it wasn't a big deal. So just to give you guys some context that, it's Los Angeles. This area is very, very large, from Malibu to West Hollywood to downtown LA to LAX to, Huntington Beach. Like, this is a very large stretch of land and area of cities and smaller cities and towns and whatnot. So and from where I am right now, I can't even see the fire, even when I can see the hillside, but I can't see the smoke, right? So just a little bit of context, and again, I'm going to talk about all those things in just a second, and I'm not going to hold you guys long. I have been trying to announce this for the past couple of videos, and I get so immersed in whatever it is I want to talk about that I just totally lose my train of thought and go right into what I want to talk about. Right now and up until Friday, I'm having a 50% off all of my ebook versions of my workbooks, as well as practical steps to health and well-being. Some of the things we're going to talk about today in the practical steps to health and well-being workbook, ebook. It's 54 pages, as well as all of my workbooks are available in ebook format. So all of them on my website, from the bundle to the individual books, are available for 50% off. You purchase it, put the coupon code in at checkout, and the book will be sent directly to you via email, and you'll have it forever. So I'll put that information in the description, as well as tickets to come see me speak live Saturday, January 25th, 2025 in Los Angeles as Soul Folks. I'll put the information down there as well. I'm also currently running a campaign. I'm not going to go too deep into details about that right now because I really want to get in this subject and I don't want to talk for too long. But if you've been watching all of my recent content, hopefully you guys are preparing to reciprocate the love and the energy and the time and the passion I put into my messages, because you should see by now that I take this really seriously. So this conversation today, I wanted to minimize my screen first to make sure that I didn't have this imagery up, because they're intentionally terrorizing and traumatizing us enough. I'm going to show some bits and pieces of this, obviously, to make the point that I want to make. But I also want us to be mindful and conscientious that the onslaught of images of just fires burning out of control with no help in sight, no water in sight, no firefighters in sight. I was watching this unfold live, obviously, because I'm always talking about situational awareness. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be aware of what's happening in my direct vicinity, but I watched the live footage, still moving around and doing other things, but for probably 5 or 6 hours yesterday, and did not see one firefighter fighting a fight. I'll say that 10 times. And I'm not saying there weren't any firefighters fighting the fires. Actually, today I saw the first footage, and I'm not even sure if this was the same fire. This is the other thing about having discernment in this timeline, because now people, not just mainstream media, but regular content creators are splicing in things that happened 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years ago, or just creating it with artificial intelligence and then mixing truth with falsehood. So I saw one video today of a firefighter fighting a fight. I don't know what, or fighting a fire. I don't know where it was or when it was happening, but just trying to be balanced in my assessment. But the point is, I'm watching all of this footage of these structures just burning uncontrollably. And I've seen arguments in the comments where people are saying, well, that's because there's no use in doing anything. The wind is spreading so fast and it's nothing they can do anyway. Does that make any sense to anybody with a half a brain? Just like they just tell you things and then you just regurgitate them. And I don't need to be a firefighter to have a certain level of common sense, just like I don't need to be a, a, a nurse or a doctor to know that face masks are not healthy, because I've worn them before and I know myself. And I have a very, wonderful relationship with my breath. So I know when it's being fringed upon and inhibited. And I understand how important and valuable the breath, prana, chi, life force, energy to this whole operation. But the imagery, the back-to-back imagery, the live news now. We used to, when I say we used to, I sound like my uncles and aunties now. Back in the days, right? Wasn't even that long ago, but um, the news would only be, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening when everybody's getting off work. Maybe a later news version. You might have a late night news version, right, at 10 or 11 o'clock. And then maybe first thing in the morning, depending on what time you leave for work, you might watch 30 minutes or catch up or whatever. But like the news is 24/7 now. So there's always something to be worried about. There's always something to be fearful about. So this imagery that we're seeing that they're broadcasting live nonstop, same images back to back over and over and over, is to terrorize and traumatize us. There's a multi-level game taking place here. Mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. All hands are on deck in terms of the ways that they are trying to rule over and control you on a whole different level now, though. When I do this video that I've been talking about, Hollywood, the finale, and they're talking about Cat Williams opened a portal. No, 2020 opened a portal. Y'all better stop playing with God and maximizing the impact of this celebrity culture. Yeah, it's very impactful on the NPCs in the bigger scheme of things, of course. Not saying we're not all tapped into it and paying attention, because we are playing the game, but still. Some of us are playing the game and some of us are being played by the game. And some of us aren't playing at all. We're just doing our, the NPCs in the game. Just the only time you see the NPC is when the main character goes in the store to, to get a soda or to engage walking in the bank to, whatever. Those scenes that repeat over and over and over, but the characters in the scenes never change. And LA is full of NPCs. So the agenda of the proper placement and timing of legalizing marijuana, along with the ongoing slot of the white lines in the sky and the impact of breathing in aluminum, let alone the other concoctions that go along with that. How long have I been talking about this now, guys? 15 years at least? I'm actually tired of myself talking about it. But I'm also never surprised at the level of brave ignorance. Y'all know me, I'll dibble and dabble in the comments, especially if something is, trending that is the bar is just way too low, right? Or the blatantly obvious things everybody's just, either not talking about, or thank God, a breath of fresh air. Somebody finally said it, right? So I'm engaging and addressing people in these different comments on these subjects. And and you know how I always shut it down if somebody just gets too silly, right? Because again, brave ignorance, call you a tinfoil hat and a MAGA supporter and all of that. Then once we get past that, because I would never, ever support Donald Trump or any of the people, or I should say, the wave of consciousness that he represents. We'll get into that in just a minute. He is the pinnacle of controlled opposition. He is the pinnacle of the court jester, and he is playing a hell of a role right now for Satan. It's fascinating to me. The lack of spiritual discernment. Look at the timeline. Look at how everything that's happened since the beginning of the year. And the automatons will say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with him. That's not his fault. He's not in control of dot, dot, dot. They're setting the stage for what they plan on manifesting during his presidency. So let's watch a few of these videos so I can get into the nitty gritty of this subject. Now wait, let me pause this first video. Watch in the first video as he's walking outside. Look at the trees. Just pay attention to the trees.
Should be okay. You're gonna be okay. All right. You're gonna be okay. Oh shit. Don't worry about that, bitch. Look at that. Oh, shit.
Actually, wrong video. It's this one on the right to pay attention to in terms of the trees.
All right, dude. Yeah, let's get out of here. We tried, bro. Sorry. Tried our best. Yeah, when this tree falls, it's over. I'm sorry, bro.
Look at the trees. Look at the trees.
Holy shit. That tree.
Okay, so freedom of speech isn't free anymore. And because I paid a hell of a price for it that I'm still recovering from to this day, I have to be cautious and careful about the things that I say. And to be honest, let me just make this exclamation point. I am no longer trying to convince anybody of anything. If you automatically write off certain things as tinfoil hat and oh, that's that conspiracy and all that stuff, if you're that type of person that is cynical and not open to actually the things, being awakened to the things that have actually been going on right in front of your eyes, then let me just pause for a second and drink some tea and give you a chance to tap out of this conversation. Because I'm no longer trying to convince anybody of anything. You think this is crazy, you think this is foolish, you think this is okay, cool. You shouldn't tune into something that you think is of that capacity of knowledge or lack thereof. Okay? A massive wildfire in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles, led to the evacuation of over 30,000 residents on Wednesday and now threatens approximately 13,000 buildings as strong Santa Ana winds stoke the flames. The Palisades fire, the largest of 3 concurrent wildfires in the region, has already burned nearly 3,000 acres and remains uncontained, prompting both Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency. Newsom's state of emergency has enabled additional state resources, including the California National Guard and assistance from the California Office of Emergency Services. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has been briefed on the situation and is offering federal resources for the effort. According to the White House, FEMA has approved a fire management assistance grant to support areas that are impacted and help reimburse the state of California for the immediate firefighting costs. How's that going for Lahaina? And the point that I wanted to make in this image with these trees, because I have footage of fires going back in California for the last 10 or 15 years, because I have been watching this very closely and watching how oddly towns and cities have a fire brush through and just completely decimate and burn everything to ash to a crisp, except maybe the trees. Trees oddly survive in these circumstances, but the buildings get burned to a crisp. So I have an overwhelming amount of documentation, right, where we could paint a full picture. But because I can't really say what I want to say in this space, it's not worth me getting censored again. I'm sorry. People don't care enough for me to put my content and my livelihood on the line like that again. Plus, I have my own website, so if push comes to shove, I can just say what I want to say in my membership channel and not have to deal with all of that. Not trying to convince anybody of anything. In the land of the blind, the man with one eye is the king. So if the king has one eye, then the blind people can't see at all. So why would I be mad? Why would I be arguing? Why would I be trying to persuade people that don't see what's happening right in front of our eyes? It's just not going to happen. Not anymore. And I'm not going to go back and forth and argue with people when people telling me to prove this and prove that, like as if I'm actually going to sit and go through 5 years or 10 years or 20 years of research in a back and forth conversation with a person that I don't even know. Carpal tunnel syndrome is a real thing. You sitting around typing on your tablet and your phone all day. Next thing you know, you got pain in your wrists. You might want to get your yoga game up. I'm just saying, none of you guys are worth that for me at this point. This is spiritual warfare happening at the highest levels, so high, in fact, that it is producing and being made manifest on a physical level. These people are actively working to manifest the scriptures. This is why people who don't take the Bible and the Quran and all of the religious scriptures and all of their different layers and complexities, who don't take these things seriously, I think that is a major flaw in your armor, respectfully. Because any time you can get 2 billion people to believe that a word is law and that it's real and that it should be followed, and that if they don't follow it, they're sinners and they're this and they're that and they're damned to hell. I've seen people describe this situation happening in LA as hell on earth. Ironically, like the Travis Scott concert. More on that later. Same people responsible for that are the same people that's responsible for this. Now, if that's too much for you to swallow, if that sounds a little bit too far-fetched, then yeah, welcome to my world. Imagine what it's like knowing this, seeing this play out for 10, 15 years in California, one of the most beautiful places in the world. We think this is just about they're only attacking, black or melanated people or brown-skinned people. They're only attacking poor people. This imagery that you're looking at right now says otherwise. That's why I said the time for race-based consciousness has run its course. It doesn't mean that race isn't still a part of the right now dichotomy. It doesn't mean that this thought, choices and decisions and, injustices are not still happening on the ground by way of race. It means that they're targeting everybody and everything. I'm going to bring this full circle because we don't do fear vibration here. So just stick with me for a second because I'm going to bring this home. I'm not going to leave you, with perpetual fire in your mind and in your heart and in your spirit and know where to take that.
Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZa Ali reporting live. from Babylon, and I wanted to give you guys a glimpse of what's going on in the sky here. I'm on Sunset Boulevard. I wanted to come to an area where I could see the full sky, and you could see the stark contrasts that are happening right above our heads. And so there you can see the sun, just to get an idea of how this smoke mixed with this man-made chemical concoction that we're looking at right now in the sky is affecting the sun. But they have been spraying right above all of this that you see going on continuously all morning, as you can see from that particular representation right there, okay? And then you can see the blue sky where Mother Nature is operating. And then you can see all this extra. You can hear the wind, probably see how the palm trees are swaying, right? So the wind has been very, very strong for the yesterday in particular, and even now. I have video footage. I'm going to be posting a video shortly on this topic, as well as the fog, because I've been recording the sky for the last couple of weeks because they have been going super hard in the paint in LA. Okay, so you can't tell me all this stuff is not connected. The situation in where the epicenter of the fires, the water is not working, the mayor is out of town, buildings being burnt to a complete crisp. Yeah, this is very similar to what we saw happen in Hawaii, in Lahaina. So I'm just saying.
So that video is obviously earlier today. All three of these videos are earlier today. The one in the middle is of me driving. Just to give some context, this is West Hollywood, and you can see the upper sky is covered with clouds, and then you can see those white lines, those extended looking clouds. Those are the man-made concoction being sprayed right above the fire smoke, or the smoke from the fire. And then in the more distant behind the buildings, you can see the plumes of smoke that are coming from the fires that are in the Malibu vicinity. And so in the first video, the you can't really tell the proximity through the videos, but I just want to give you guys some context of the regular, environment and every, day-to-day business operations. Everything is operating here as normal, except the fact that you can see this huge monogamous, smoke, plumes of smoke in the background, and, all of the fear factor that is, sort of vibrating in the consciousness as a result. And then this on the right is another short clip that I just wanted to sort of emphasize the point that I made in the first one.
I mean, if this doesn't speak volumes, then I don't know what does. Okay, just so we all clear on what's going on here.
So Trump put out a statement earlier and said Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is to blame for this on top of it all. No water for fire hydrants, no firefighting planes, a true disaster. Now, first of all, I agree, because I think Governor Newsom is a clown of epic proportions. Let's just say that. But without me going all into detail about that, all of the whole political arena in California and most of the Democratic states for that matter, but I will add most of the Republican states to that for that matter too. I'm equal opportunity here. And the equal opportunity in this conversation is Trump is absolutely right in this regard. And the flip side of it is that the things that we're looking at in the sky in terms of the white lines were happening during his whole entire first presidency. And he did and said nothing about it. Okay? So this ongoing mass agenda taking place in our skies in America and all across the world is 1000% connected to what we see happening here, to what we saw happening in Maui, to what we saw happening with Hurricane Helene. And I could go on and on and on. We're not going to stay on the fear vibration, but we gotta talk through this. So just stay with me. LA Mayor Karen Bass cut fire department funding by $17.6 million months before wildfires turned city into hellscape. Now, here's the thing. We could make this all about California and how incompetent and inept the leadership, et cetera, is there. But this exact thing just happened in Lahaina, Maui. And the same thing that happens after all natural disasters, just like the situation in Helene, they're going to go through and do investigations. They're going to blame the mayor. They're going to blame the governor. They're going to blame the fact that they didn't do this and they didn't do that. The dry fire hydrants, right? The whole water restoration programs, the whole insurance aspect. I've been talking at headline news about the fact that the insurance companies have been pulling from up under California homeowners for the entire last year now for this exact reason. So you say, well, it makes sense. It's a business move. How could the state and the national government not be subsidizing in people in a place where there's a high capacity for fire, subsidizing them for insurance because there's a high probability that something is going to be something traumatic or devastating could happen to their homes and their livelihood? If you can subsidize the Ukraine, why can't you subsidize Los Angeles? Especially the amount of taxes that people pay here. These areas where these homes, people are mocking this situation and saying, oh, well, it's the rich people. These people are carrying a lot of the taxes that get paid in California that keep this place operating. Now, we can argue about mismanagement of funds, et cetera, but there's not really too many states in California that are not having that same problem. I mean, in the United States that aren't having that same problem, red or blue. Now, Florida has been talking about, as of late, banning this whole operation going on in the sky. We went from it's not a real thing to now Florida's banning it. We went from it's not a real thing to now Mexico is banning it. And it's like somebody pissing in a pool and you being in the same pool and thinking that you're not going to be affected by the urine in the water because you're on the other side. That's just not how it works. So Florida governor only cares about Floridians? Is that what you're saying? It's okay for everybody else to get hosed down with poison? This is all this stuff, the timing, the way it's happening is strategic. It's to put the revolutionary spirit of America to rest, while at the same time performing mass shock and awe. That's what we're watching right now. This is why I keep talking about the importance of being able to mentally, spiritually, and emotionally sustain ourselves in the midst of this. And yes, California right now, but a couple of weeks ago, it was the mountains in Tennessee and Georgia. And then a few months before that, it was Lahaina, Hawaii. And then before that, it was Turkey. It's Tibet right now. We're going to talk about that in just a second. New York is a whole other species in terms of the things happening there. And I ain't even talking about natural disaster. I'm talking about the natural disaster of NPCs, non-playable characters. That frequency in LA, in California, much like New York, is alive and well.
Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? Today is Monday, January 6th, I believe.
Monday.
Reporting live from Hollywood, California, and they have been spraying the hell out of Los Angeles for the last couple of weeks. And yes, I have been seeing what they've been, or what people have been referring to as this weird fog or dense cloud-like, fog-like, substance just settling over different parts of the city. Hopefully everybody is conscientious and aware about this and stepping your calcium grade food A bentonite clay and activated charcoal and oil of oregano and black seed oil and what else? Colloidal silver nasal spray, as well as the regular colloidal silver. Because yeah, it's a lot going on. A huge X right in front of the sun. I wonder why. They pinpoint certain areas from satellites, and they have a storm to build that's getting ready to hit Texas and different parts of the East Coast. And so, because the jet stream starts on the Pacific coast, California gets hit in a major way and has been getting hit in a major way for a very long time because we start to create those storms here. Auditing the weather by 2025 is a real.
By the way, I forgot to put the slide in here about Georgia. I believe is getting ready to get some 3 or 4 inches of snow in the coming days. Just another tentacle of this.
What's up, y'all? So I just had to share the irony and the symbolism of my location and what I'm looking at right now. I'm right across the street from the CBS building, as you can see there, and the all-seeing eye. And then you look up in the sky and you can see the works of the all-seeing eye, as you see that little rainbow effect right there bouncing off of that white line. But the irony is that the people all around that have eyes don't even see. That scripture about in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is the king. Yeah, it has a whole different level and layer of significance right now. So I just thought I would share that with you guys. Recording live from Babylon, or one of the epicenters of Babylon. It's fascinating.
So if you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, you see I share these videos all the time. I don't even share all the videos because I know you guys probably get tired of me talking about this stuff. But anytime I walk outside and I see this type of madness in the sky, I'm going to take my camera out, I'm going to mark the date, and I'm going to record it. So this is literally over, all of these videos are over the last week where this has been happening right above our heads. Now, interestingly enough, I started looking at scriptures in the Bible that reference fire. And one of the passages in the King James Bible, and for those of you guys who aren't religious, and I know I have some of you guys who just completely disregard the Bible, if you understand the premise of consciousness creating reality, then you understand that these people are actively trying to put themselves into the footsteps of a certain people within the scriptures, and then to make manifest. They want to manifest God's judgment. They want to manifest the magnificent levels of trauma and terrorizing and suffering and chaos. That's our spiritual blind spot. We seem to have missed that point. They want chaos. They want suffering. They want PDF files to become a part of the collective consciousness, the fabric of the collective consciousness, where it's accepted for children to be sexualized and demoralized. They've been doing it to women for a very long time now, setting the stage. The King James Bible passage, Revelations 21 verses 8, chapter 21 verse 8 says, but the fearful and unbelieving, wait, first pause. Take 1 second with me. The first word, but the fearful The fearful can apply to anybody. The fearful can apply to a person with a good heart. The fearful can apply to a person who prays 5 times a day. The fearful can apply to a person that everybody in the community loves and thinks is a marvelous person. The fear has to be addressed by any means necessary. And when the languages, the words that follow the fearful, when you see how stark and severe they are, and the fact that fearful appears first, because that's how the devil gets in. That's how Satan runs the show. He can't control you. He can't manipulate you. He can't tap into your frequency and your state of consciousness if you are not living in fear. That's why they're looping the trauma and the fire and hell brimfire, and there's nothing we can do. Global warming is on the scene. It's going to take us all out. Look, everything's burning. Everything's turned to ash. Let us come through and charge you a carbon tax to fix it all. At least that's the first step until they bring their one God to the forefront and then try to get the masses of humanity who are mostly fearful to submit to that, aka the Antichrist, which is not going to be just one man. It's an agenda. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now, for the people who don't believe in the Bible, I am pretty sure, or don't ascribe to the Bible, when it comes to I won't even put unbelieving in, right? Because what do you believe in? The abominable, the murderers, the whoremongers, the sorcerers, the idolaters, the liars, especially post 2020, I think we can all come to agree that these are components within the human family or tribe that have probably run their course, that it's time for them to get taken off the set. I'm not saying that's what's happening with these people in Los Angeles in terms of being in the path of the fire. I'm saying this is just what's happening. It is what it is. Now, I made the argument in terms of I looked at the number of people in Maui that took that shot. I believe it was 90%. Headline news, my family that was watching that episode, quote me if I'm incorrect, but I believe it was 90% of the population in that area. I'm not justifying it. I'm trying to see where God is in this, because we could say whether it's man-made or not. Why is God allowing it to happen? Whatever your preferred language in terms of God is, I'm comfortable with. The Most High, source energy, universe, Allah. And then the collective consciousness that actually culminates this concept of what we call Allah or God or Elohim or Netaru, etc., etc. I want to galvanize all of the believers and all of the high thinking, powerful mindsets and all of those different spiritual capacities. Because what are we going to do about this? Satan is on 10, came from behind the curtain in 2020. That's why I say I beg your pardon. Cat Williams opened the portal. No, 2020 opened the portal. If you have spiritual and discernment, it's crystal clear. Right now, there are 3 burning epicenters of the fires, starting out with the Palisades fire, and then the Hearst fire, which is behind, I'll say, the San Fernando Valley, and then the Eaton fire. All of these fires are in the mountainsides of California, of Southern California, excuse me. Heavy winds all day yesterday, all day today. Just a couple of days ago, the Tesla, it was all over the news, not to mention the other alleged terror attack. We're not going to get into that. I'm going to get into the next episode of Headline News. So I want to stay on this subject. Is it just a coincidence that a Tesla Cybertruck catches fire outside the Trump Hotel Someone allegedly dies. Who knows? These stories are more so about the headlines and the images than anything. This is all about setting the collect. This is setting up the lob for the next move, which didn't even take long apparently, because here we are a couple of days later. Pacific Palisades wildfire rages as tens of thousands forced to evacuate. Fast moving fires in Pacific Palisades. Southern California wildfire. Palisades fire live updates. I mean, it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. A couple of days later, you think this is not a coincidence? I don't think so. This is why I say people who are on this MAGA Trump campaign, red versus blue, you still on that frequency? You don't even see the real cards being played here. They're taunting us. After the Lahaina fires, Joe Biden puts up a post, or Joe Biden didn't put this up, whoever controls. It's time we start correcting our language. Joe Biden didn't post this. Whoever controls his social media posted this. Just like we drew it up with himself with fire beaming eyes, laser beaming eyes. Right after the situation in Lahaina. For what? What does this mean? Oh, he tried to draw it to a commercial. Really? No, they're taunting the people that are paying attention. They're thumbing their noses up at the Most High. And I'm not saying that it's effective. I'm not saying they're greater than God. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying they're absolutely 1000% thumbing their noses up at the Most High and us. And so you see the image at the top. I did all this, showed the video and everything from the clip from the boys when he turns the laser beams on in his eyes and just completely murks an entire crowd of hundreds of people because he's upset because his ego is bruised. We don't think that they're capable, huh? And I'm not even saying anything directly. So if you're trying to read between the lines and all of this stuff is not familiar to you and this is just way too out of whack, then I get it. I understand. And it's okay. I'm comfortable with you being where you are. Just be comfortable with where I am and we can both live in harmony, hopefully. At least not I said harmony, but then something in my spirit was like, yeah, but that's not what they're not setting things up for us to live in harmony, as we can see here. I'm not on the fear vibration, but we got to have some conversations, family.
Start with an update from Maui and what the governor calls a catastrophe in the historic town of Lahaina, the center of the devastation. Officials telling reporters tonight, quote, "It's all gone." And this eerie new video from what was once the first capital of the Hawaiian Kingdom and more recently a bustling commercial and tourist center shows exactly what they mean, with building after building after building, more than 1,000 structures and counting reduced to ashes. 53 people have been confirmed dead, a number that will likely rise. Hawaii's governor saying this is likely the deadliest natural disaster the state has ever seen. Meanwhile, as firefighters make progress, visitors are lining up to find flights out while residents wait for a chance to see if their homes, if anything, is still standing.
Same way the buildings here look. I can't, man, yeah. Like I said, I'm not even trying to convince people of anything anymore. Some days I wake up and I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie, and I really just want for these people to leave us alone. I really just want to live in an environment where, I can thrive and put my mind and my work out into the world and be of service and add value and not have to worry about my son living in this world, and you know what I'm saying, and to have a tribe of people and love-based energy and frequency and creativity and just thrive. And I don't want to have to deal with this shit. So for the smart alecks that I already know or have probably already typed a weird comment or are going to type a weird comment, I don't want to have to talk about this. I don't want to have to walk outside and be worried about breathing in poisons and you know what I'm saying? The obvious cost of increases that are going to hit this area as a result of dot dot dot. Who wants to live like this? This is not fun talking about this. It wasn't fun when I was talking about it 15 years ago and people were in my comments calling me a pseudoscientist. But yeah, here we are. So we're waiting on God. God is waiting on us. We're waiting on God. God is waiting on us. What does that actually mean? If you believe in God, that if you believe in a higher power than yourself, then you must have some concept of why these things are being allowed to happen, right? Because the Lord nature is on 10 and it has to purge itself out. And that's what we're seeing taking place right now. But it's not just Satan at the top of the pyramid, it's all the little minions at the bottom that have been living in hell this whole time too. That's the thing we're missing. That's why the Hollywood agenda is so prominent right now. We're all a part of the movie. We're all a part of the reality TV show. They've been setting this up for 20 years now with reality TV and blending the concept of the movies and television shows with real life. Programming your subconscious mind so that when insanity and chaos is happening around you, you don't blink and you're completely neutralized. You don't feel compassion for other people and you don't care as long as it's not happening to you. That's not a godly sentiment, with all due respect. Now, we can either take the posture and position as the kings and queens, as the landlords of this planet, or not. Well, you saying all of that, what's the view? That's the problem. What's the solution? What I'm saying is the solution. Stop burying your head in the sands and pretending like this shit's not happening. Not only the stuff going on in the sky and the things that the wicked people are doing, but the shit that's going on in your mind and your heart that you won't even deal with. Big devils, little devils. Big Satan, little Satans. It's all the same frequency, just magnitudes of extreme. Now, same way people lined up and tapped all the way into the football frequency after the situation in Lahaina, and they got Jay-Z setting up the lob right now for this upcoming Super Bowl, and it's all about entertainment on and off the field. Keep the people busy, keep them immersed in entertainment and chaos and lust and lack-based consciousness and laughing and enjoying to see other people suffering. That whole eat the rich sentiment, that frequency that a lot of people are talking about since the healthcare guy got taken off the set in broad daylight, and the eat the rich sentiment that's coming because Malibu and the well-to-do and all of these people are suffering in those areas. Yeah, it feels good, but that's not the God frequency. The people of God have a higher standard of accountability right now. I'm talking to you guys. Everybody else, I hope you're enjoying the conversation. Energy stabilizers, grid stabilizers. Those of us that have a place that we can go in our mind and our heart to pull ourselves out of the drama and chaos of this world and see something better and something brighter and something more advantageous for humanity. I'm over this, all of it. Can't even walk in a store without having to figure out and go into Inspector Gadget mode to try to find lemons and oranges with seeds. How? When you can take one seed and create 1,000 trees. You don't think that's spiritual warfare because it's science? Well, you don't know God. You're so busy studying and focused on one book, and the whole entire life experience is a scripture unfolding with you in it. You're part of the living scriptures. You can't even value and appreciate yourself because you worship the book. I'm not going to ever argue with you about religious points. I've been very clear. I talk about and reference the scriptures because I understand the value. We're walking and living in it. I'm just a walking and living scripture too. When it said, ye are all God's children of the Most High God, I took that serious. So This what we're looking at in the capabilities and the wickedness that these people are capable of. I can't even talk. I would, even if I could talk about it without getting censored. The average person does not have the bandwidth to deal. Because the dots can be connected. Everything starting in 2020 up until now, even before 2020, but just 2020 is an excellent marking point. The dots can be connected with all of these different scientific, medical, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I know why I came to Southern California 100% now. Yes, it was to write the book, but it was also to see the way that the upper echelon of that pyramid of Satan are operating out here. You're not sick, you're just under the weather. Now, let me just let you take this image in for just a second. I'm going back and forth on a thread about cancer rates in young women. And again, the brave ignorance with people that are actually like trying to mock me because I brought up the coverings that they mandated over people's faces. Like, it's far-fetched to think that if you're smothering your ability to breathe in oxygen and the lungs are directly the viability and the impact of the lungs are directly connected to and impacted by your oxygen intake and etc. I don't need to be a doctor or a scientist to know that. So you can't shake me with that. And then I have nurses in the comments that are like, oh, I'm a nurse. I've been doing this for so and so and so and so. That can't possibly be it. I saw people in gyms running on treadmills in face masks. I saw people doing full-fledged sprints up and down stairs wearing face masks. It's not the same thing. Children on courtyards at school and elementary school running around playing in face masks. I don't need to be a doctor or a nurse to know to understand that there's going to be specific health ramifications, especially when you understand and respect the power of breath. Yesterday, January 7th, the same day that all of this is popping off in Los Angeles, they release the names of the 104 victims killed by Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. And it actually happened 2 days ago. Blue Ridge Public Radio, the one at the top, reported this 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, 1 day ago, it's all happening. You know what I mean? Just like things like this I'm looking at in the headline news. Again, I see the taunting. I see the stamping, the blueprint, stamping your blueprint on your work, so to speak. What's the condition on the ground in North Carolina and in Tennessee and in the Georgia mountains? These people who were inundated with a year's worth of water in one day. What's happening there right now? Are they safe? Are they comfortable? Are they cared for? Do they have housing? Do we know? Do we care? What happened to the 2,000 children that they said were missing in Lahaina? Did we ever find them? Was there ever any full-on investigative reporting done on that? Somebody can link that information in the description because I can't find anything. It's all conjecture. You know, they tell you a story and then expect you to read between the lines. That works on stupid people.
Will again be closely monitoring dense fog that will impact plans this evening. Already, the National Weather Service has issued a dense fog advisory for Charlotte and Lee counties. It officially goes into effect at 7 o'clock, but we are already, especially in the western half of these counties, starting to see those visibilities deteriorate. So dense fog advisories in effect through about 10 a.m., and those could very well be overspread. I want to show you what we're talking about. Let's start off first here in Collier County. Marco Island, we've been in and out of the fog throughout the day. Right now, seeing a nice respite. Of course, so many folks taking advantage of that enjoying that time on the beach. Let's head a little bit farther up toward the north. I want to show you this, our live look from our Margaritaville Tower camera. And as we overlook Fort Myers Beach, it's impossible to even see the remnants of the pier there. Just really goes to show that fog is dense on Estero Island, Estero Boulevard, crossing over the Matanzas Pass. If you are in this area,
I know what fog is supposed to look like.
Be closely monitored.
I'm gonna hopefully I can get it back to where it was. I just had to say this. I don't like to say I'm old enough. I'm ripe enough. I know what fog is supposed to look like. And I know that there are gradations of fog. I know that the density in the fog, it changes the way you breathe, it changes the way, the weight of your energy, so to speak. I'm aware and conscientious of all of that. This same fog that you're seeing here, I've seen that in LA on multiple occasions. I've even seen it hovering at night. You don't see it in the daytime, but at night you see this hovering. We wonder why the people here are so docile and so lackluster when it comes to standing up to all of the insanity and chaos happening in politics here. The fact that one of the most wealthiest places in the world actually has fire hydrants that don't have water in them during a mass emergency of epic proportions. Please, somebody make sense of that to me. It's all intentional. That's the thing I need for us to process. This is not like random, I want to say insufficiency, but that's too nerdy. This is not regular. What's the word? Somebody knows what I'm trying to say. Regular, inadequate. You know what I'm saying? Mediocre. You dropped the ball on ... Not when the same thing happened in Lahaina. Not when the same thing, but in a different way, happened in the mountains on the East Coast.
Monitoring dense fog that will impact plans this evening. Already, the National Weather Service has issued a dense fog advisory for Charlotte and Lee counties. It officially goes into effect at 7 o'clock, but we are already, especially in the western half of these counties, starting to see those visibilities deteriorate. So dense fog advisories in effect through about 10 a.m., and those could very well be overspread. I want to show you what we're talking about. Let's start off first here in Collier County. Marco Island, we've been in and out of the fog throughout the day. Right now, seeing a nice respite. Of course, so many folks taking advantage of that, enjoying that time on the beach. Let's head a little bit farther up toward the north. I want to show you this, our live look from our Margaritaville Tower camera. And as we overlook Fort Myers Beach, it's impossible to even see the remnants of the pier there. Just really goes to show that fog is dense on Estero Island, Estero Boulevard, crossing over the Matanzas Pass. If you are in this area, please travel with extreme caution, especially with so many folks, so many pedestrians out and about. And now let's take you a little farther toward the north, right here off of Pine Island. This is overlooking Pine Island Sound from the Tarpon Lodge. And as we overlook Pine Island Sound there too, you can really see that distinct layer of what we call sea fog. All of that fog continuing to move on shore. Even from the Sunseeker Resort, we can start to see that those visibilities are going downhill for now. I'd say visibilities are still at a couple of miles, but you can kind of see that fog bank there on the horizon. And that's exactly what our visibility map right here is indicating for parts of Sarasota County, across the Cape Hayes Peninsula. All of this will continue to work its way inland, and obviously even spots that weren't indicated there, already seeing that fog. So helping you plan out the rest of this evening as you're out and about, please travel with extreme caution. Of course, we already have to be exceptionally careful on nights like tonight. But when we're talking about visibilities dropping to a quarter mile or less, it's going to be a huge concern, especially from 9 o'clock onward. And again, it's not until tomorrow morning that we're expecting that fog to clear out with a cold front. We'll be talking more about that in your 7-day forecast coming up.
For the California weather specialists, and obviously this is from Florida, but in these conversations I'm having back and forth online, the people from California, which is again, the brave ignorance just never ceases to amaze me. But one of the repetitive things that I keep seeing said is that number one, the Santa Ana winds are a normal thing, right? And so that the reasoning for the extreme wind uptake makes sense, right? Even though I think that's something that's more so geared towards the summer than the actual winter, but don't quote me on that. And then also the fog situation. Like I'm a California native. I was born and raised in Oakland, California. And yeah, the Bay Area and Southern California are different in terms of the weather and in terms of the right how it's hotter down here. There's different aspects of the weather and how, you know, the system, how we experience the weather. But there's a lot of things that are very similar. And because I grew up in a coastside city, Oakland, which is coastside to the Pacific Ocean, same thing as Los Angeles, the way the fog rolls in from the bay or the ocean, right? The density and the continuity of the fog during certain times of year, I grew up with that. So I, you know, and I've seen it here since I've been here, the natural versus the unnatural aspect of it. So this is not uncharted territory for me. And I've been studying the skies here in a totally different capacity than the average person for the last 20 years. I see how what they spray, how it matriculates over the Pacific Ocean. And they do it here specifically because this is where the jet stream starts. And this is what starts the weather patterns that happen all over the country. And now it either starts it organically and naturally, what ends up, you know, building and facilitating across the country, or it does it synthetically. That doesn't mean it has to rain in California today for it to snow in, let's say, Dallas tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. This is a multi-layered, multi-tiered operation happening right above our heads.
Okay. Calling in all reinforcements. Need your help on this one. My friend who lives in East Texas woke up today and this is what was in her pool. Now, she's lived in this property for over 11 years. Never has had anything like this happen before. No, she did not change any chemical regimen in her pool. The only thing that she said that was kind of weird was there was some really odd fog yesterday. But I've tried to look it up too. I can't find anything that would lead to anything like this happening or any reaction with water. So if anybody has any idea, any water experts out there, I know I have a few, or at least one following my page. We need your help. All right, guys. Thanks so much in advance for your help. Let me know if you have any ideas.
December 30th, 2024. A little bit over a week ago in Dallas, Texas, right? Now I can hear somebody saying, oh, that's CGI. You can't trust anything you see on the internet. You know, why are you showing this and there's no proof or verification of anything? You know, it's so interesting how high you guys set the bar when it comes to regular old scientists like me, little old scientists like me. And yes, I am a scientist for sure. You set the bar so high for people like me, but then you can let MSNBC and CNN and Fox News tell you that our sky has been infiltrated by 1,000 UFOs and never actually show you any proof. I'm not talking about the drones and the lights and, you know what I mean, the random, you know, far off, can't really tell what that is, you know, all of that. Like or the scene in the Miami Mall where allegedly there was an alien walking through the police cars. And in the age of all the cell phones having crystal clear technology with the cameras, you can see an ant from 7 stories up. I'm being facetious, but I'm just saying it's relative. But when it comes to being able to see the aliens with around the police cars, all of a sudden things get blurry again, like we're doing VCRs. We need to up the ante on our discernment. So I'm just saying the bar in terms of the expectations and what we believe, they didn't give you any proof of. Actually, I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to stay on topic. This video, utility fog, is going to make a lot of sense. I'm going to contextualize this on the next slide in this passage that I'm going to read. But let's just watch the video first. It's one of those ones that you're going to have to really listen to, though, to understand what, you know, the idea of fog being used as the utility or even created.
Utility fog is a hypothetical type of artificial or mechanical matter akin to computronium, and it is full of tiny machines built to perform a role. Computronium is meant to do computation, And technically, any computer or chip is a low-grade form of computronium, but utility fog is built to be more general purpose and able to perform many roles, such as turning into objects or even sophisticated machines like computronium, and maybe even edible items or creating them from local matter. It is assumed that in a sufficiently advanced civilization, people would tend to be followed around by clouds of utility fog awaiting their command, verbal or mental, or that it might even take on the form of clothing while waiting for its next job. Indeed, as we discussed in our episode on smart and programmable matter, it is even possible that post-humans might themselves be composed in whole or part of particles of utility fog, much as we are composed of cellular machines now.
He said programmable matter, right? He said machines that perform a role, right? And that these machines can perform many roles, right? They have, in the same way that they've weaponized people's illnesses to the point now where whatever pre-existing conditions you had pre taking the you know what have now been magnified and exasperated because the sickness and the illness has been weaponized. And the technology that they use in this regard feeds off of low vibrational frequency and energy in acidic environments, just like the devil. So, acidic environment meaning you eat fast food and genetically modified food, and and the worst kind of diet, your body is going to be acidic, right? You drink alcohol consistently, or soda, and just the type of things that you put in your body and your lack of care for your internal body will absolutely show up and reflect an acidic body. The technology thrives in that environment. A low vibrational environment, meaning someone who is high stress, someone who is depressed, someone who is always fearful, right? Your overall magnetic or energetic resonance, if it is a low vibrational capacity, then it will feed in those environments. So just to make the point, whether you took it or you didn't, it's critical for all of us right now. The same way I keep saying God is in the details. What does God think right now? I think God is telling us to step our game up in terms of our health and well-being, not just physical fitness. That's not even the most important. And it's not even about comparing them because they're all important. But I'm just saying, because everybody's always focused on physical fitness, especially in the era of social media. Fortifying ourselves mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. They've weaponized humanity's sickness, and they've weaponized Mother Nature. That's what it is that we're seeing take place. Just like the whole idea of taking an orange and going into the lab and figuring out how to trick the coating that makes an orange orange, and that makes all oranges orange, right? From tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, God only knows how many years oranges have existed, and there was never an issue. You know what I mean? Like they always were the same all over the world where they grow. And now all of a sudden you want to go in a lab and study it and figure out how you can monetize it. Not just where you own a farm of oranges and now you sell those oranges, but no, you want to own the ability for anyone to produce oranges. And if they produce oranges, they're going to buy your seed. And if they buy your seed, they're going to have to keep buying your seed. Like you can't just buy one seed and then have a tree and then it lives on forever. The normal, original, organic way. Now you buy a seed, it has the magnitude of one lifetime, and then it doesn't exist anymore. Now ponder that in the bigger scope of what's happening in the world right now. This is a document, Owning the Weather in 2025, Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. Those of you guys that have been following my content for a long time have heard me reference this paper 1,000 times. I referenced this paper in my first book, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs, which I put out in 2025. So 10 years ago now. And this paper was written in 1996. A research paper presented to Air Force 2025. Now, 7 or 8 years ago or 10 years ago, there was an argument, and rightfully so. We didn't necessarily know if, all of this was in this paper was true, right? It's like, okay, it sounds official, and we definitely can see the lines in the sky. So we know that that part of this is accurate. We know that the antennas are stationed in this part of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that's accurate. But like actually owning it and setting a date to where you're going to have full control over it, yeah, that was a little far-fetched for a lot of us, me included. Now here we are in 2025. I want to read a passage from this paper, and I'm assuming the PDF version of this is still online. I'm not exactly sure. If you're in my membership channel, I have the full paper in your library in the Hidden in Plain Sight tab. If not, as far as I know, you should still be able to find it online, but it's been a long time since I've actually had to look for it because I've been having it for a long time. So, for Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. So the whole thing is 52 pages, but I'm going to skip to page 25. Now, we were just talking about the fog. I hope this does not, this shouldn't get my page. This is public information. As far as I'm concerned, if they take the video down, I'll just put it on my site. I'll put a clip up on YouTube, and then I'll put the whole thing up on my site, and then you can just watch the whole thing there. Some things have to be said. With regard to seeding techniques, wait, let me make sure I'm starting at the right part. Okay, no, let's start here. There are some emerging technologies which may have important applications for fog dispersal. As discussed earlier, heating is the most effective dispersal method for the most commonly occurring type of fog. Unfortunately, it has proved impractical for most situations and would be difficult at best for contingency operations. However, the development of directed radiant energy technologies, such as microwaves and lasers, could provide new possibilities. Now, remember, this is from 1996. You see the language of lasers. You see your boy Joe Biden doing these little funny, weird, evil, satanic type of public gestures. Maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. I know it does, but let me stay on point. There are some emerging technologies which may have important applications. Oh, I read that part already. Lab experiments have shown microwaves to be effective for the heat dissipation of fog. However, results also indicate that the energy levels required exceed the U.S. large power density exposure limit of 100 watts and would be very expansive. Field experiments with lasers have demonstrated the capability to dissipate warm fog at an airfield with zero visibility. I don't want to read that part because the language of it is not going to sound right even when I read it. With regard to seeding techniques, improvements in the materials of delivery methods are not only plausible, but likely. Smart materials based on nanotechnology are currently being developed with gigaops computer capability at their core. They could adjust their size to optimal dimensions for a given fog seeding situation, even making adjustments throughout the process. They might also enhance their dispersal qualities by adjusting their buoyancy, by communicating with each other. Don't worry, I'm going to read that again. And by steering themselves within the fog. They will be able to provide immediate and continuous effectiveness feedback by integrating with the larger sensor network, and can also change their temperature and polarity to improve their seeding effects. As above mentioned, UAVs could be used to deliver and distribute these smart materials. Now, let's just take a moment. Yeah. They might also enhance their dispersal qualities by adjusting their buoyancy. Now, you know, the life jacket that they offer you when you breathe the air when you're on an airplane, and you breathe the air into it, right, and then it fills up, and then the buoyancy is the ability to hold you afloat, right, the ability for it to float, right, on the water, and that bounce effect, so to speak. There's another terminology for it, but just to give you a concept, right? And by communicating with each other, wait, what? You're talking about something that you're spraying into already existing fog, and with it said before, either seeding or creating. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I don't want. I just need us to broaden our horizons in terms of the levels of conversations that we're having, especially on social media, especially in the Black community, especially in the spiritual and metaphysics community. Um, it's January 8th, and the things that have already sort of unveiled themselves in the conscious community, in the collective consciousness, excuse me, in 8 days time, just for context. All right, so you see how they're talking about the building blocks of when the building blocks of fog, and basically how to inorganically or in a synthetic way recreate these processes, right? Now, you know what I was thinking about when I was reading this, and let me just minimize this screen so you guys will have a better view. Let's make this larger. What I was thinking about as I was reading this, let me see how I am on time. I can't do a 30-minute video to save my life. Oh, an hour and 15 minutes. Oh my goodness. And I was like, okay, I only got 7 slides. This is going to be quick. Like, oh, this is mad scientist mode for real. I'll be trying to simplify it, y'all. I promise you. I promise you, I'll be trying to simplify it. Okay. This made me think of, as I was reading through this article, the lost found Muslim lesson number 2 from the Supreme Wisdom. Number 8 in lesson number 2 says, what makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes? Answer: the earth is approximately covered underwater, approximately 3/4 of its surface, the sun and moon having attracting power on our planet, with our planet making the terrific speed of 1,037 1/3 miles on its way around the sun. The sun draws this water up into the earth's rotation, which is called gravitation, in a fine mist that the naked eye can hardly detect. But as this mist ascends higher and increasing with other mists of water in different currents of the atmosphere, until when she becomes heavier than gravitation, then she distills back to the earth in the form of drops of water and drops of ice, or drops of ice, which depends on how heavy the mist was in the current of the air it was in. There are some layers or currents of air, real cold and warm, and some very swift and changeable, so called snow. But this water is not ever drawn above 6 miles from the earth's surface by the moon and by the sun and moon. The reason it rains back on our planet is because it cannot get out of the earth's atmosphere. With its high speed of rotating around the sun makes it impossible. Earthquakes are caused by the Son of Man by experimenting on high explosion. In fact, all the above is caused by the Son of Man. Now, let me pause anybody that takes issue with the fact that this information comes from the Nation of Islam. I don't do dogma. I just do truth. Truth. I said truth, like TROOF. This is this is when the hood you know what I mean, unexpectedly comes out. Truth. Okay? Truth like tooth. I do truth and I follow truth. You know what I'm saying? So I don't need to be committed to any particular ideology, any particular religion. The Nation of Islam played a very critical role in my understanding and in my seeking of knowledge. So it's only right that when I'm reading something like this, that is not only represented the audacity to put this in writing, right? The audacity to have this available online. We know good and well if they wanted to censor it. I know better than anybody if they wanted to censor this information, we'd never be able to find it. It's not censored. As far as I know, nobody's fact checked it. You know what I mean? And it's at least when I was looking for it, it was readily available online, right? So there's that. We have the written word right here in front of us, and then we have the actual circumstances on the ground happening in real time. I just read you a passage. I didn't even get into how wind can be used to neutralize an adversary. That's in there too, as well as programming what we know as quote unquote smart dust, and then steering storms. That's in there too. Okay. Mind you, this is all stuff that respectfully 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And I me as well as many others. Obviously, if I found this, I'm plugged into the plug-in that I needed to be plugged in to know. So this is a representation of how it was explained to us that the original man, right, in terms of studying the building blocks of the atmosphere and the building blocks of the way that this third dimensional reality operates. This is why if you have an issue with me reading from this or like drawing from this, like where else are we talking about and pondering and considering the size of the planet and the building blocks of water in the way that the connection between humanity and what we know of as the sun, what we know of as the moon. And please, flat earthers, don't derail the conversation. I don't care if it's flat or round. I don't. So you don't need to, you know what I mean? You don't need to copy and paste the encyclopedia. I really don't care. Okay. And even I'm so prepared for these arguments, you guys, that I've been hearing for so long. I hope that doesn't take away from the points that I'll be trying to make, but I can just hear the naysayers, like the things that they say is the automatons. They're just naturally programmed to disregard everything that's important and viable to the conversation that you say, and just stick on to that one little bitty thing that they feel like they got a little bit of, I got her on that one. Let me derail the conversation and talk about something that makes me look important. Well, that's what the devil does. Respectfully causes, problems amongst the righteous. And ironically, there's a ring of fire, not several rings of fire, not too far away from me right now. Just like there was a ring of fire happening out there in Hawaii, in Maui, a real live, legit, we can see it from air, ring of fire. And our spidey senses weren't tingling. It's just fascinating to me. When I go back to that conversation, when I have my next the town hall conversation, we're going to talk about that family, when family is the matrix conversation, because that point really hit a lot. It hit deep for a lot of people. And I want us to weaponize those experiences and to weaponize those circumstances to transmute and alchemize those experiences so that we're properly prepared for what's happening in our world today. Because some of us have to step up to the plate. I ain't talking about being on no front line and waving no weapons or taking it to the man. This is spiritual warfare on the highest levels. How do we know? Because it's happening right in front of our faces, and we're surrounded by people that can't even see it. Okay, you don't see it, but you don't feel it. You don't feel this energy, this vibration, you know what I mean? This thing and that you can't put your finger on, but it's like there, and it's not loving and welcoming and righteous. It's like waiting for the opportunity to strike. And that's one level of consciousness because we can't even get stuck there. You know what I mean? The next level is, yeah, I know it's there, but I am that I am. That's what we're striving for. But to act like none of this stuff is happening around you and prepare yourself, you got to develop the tools. That's why we're having this conversation, to develop the tools. So yeah, it's great to me that they have created these utilities and utensils and toys to try to do what God does organically and naturally. I feel like there's a showdown coming because there's already a showdown actually happening. It's happening in the minds and hearts of the people. Which side are you on? That's the real question. Yesterday, 7.1 magnitude earthquake strikes China's Tibet region near Nepal border. So we know that Tibet is an epicenter of spiritual consciousness and culture, and the fact that it's steeped in this very specific and exquisite landscape, natural landscape. We know that there is a very high vibration of consciousness in that area, a spiritual epicenter, if you will, just like Lahaina is the spiritual epicenter. The fact that that took place in Lahaina, and King Kamehameha was the ruler who established Lahaina as the capital of the islands at that point, did not fall short. You know what I mean? I was very cognizant of that. Like, it was like living in parallel realities. Because now Lahaina's in the news all the time. And this is something that I was like looking into and studying it and looking at the landscape, but from 2000 years ago, 1800. Spiritual warfare. 120, it's freezing in Tibet right now. At least 26 have transitioned. And imagine the magnitude of the rescue mission in a place that's as mountainous as this. So when I talk about being centered, this ain't easy for me to sit here and talk about all this stuff and act like I got it all figured. I don't like people who do that. Just want to be the first ones to report, and they got it all figured out because they're the first ones to report. And it's like no accountability for the vibrational resonance that your content is establishing. We're all connected, interconnected, directly, indirectly, energetically, the tribe of humans, so to speak. That's why what's happening right here right in the backyard of where I am, there's no way I can't feel compassion for those people, whoever they are, whatever they have, it doesn't matter. So here is my suggestions and recommendations for us to be fortified physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. But these are just the things that I have been doing consistently for the past 10, 15 years, things that I know work, things that I know are effective in terms of having our internal bodies be properly maintained and solidified to be able to sustain us against what's going on in this world. I know that probably sounds way more complicated than it needs to, but I'm just saying this is not a passive wait around and see what happened type of situation. And if you took the shot or you know somebody who took the shot, I would have a whole different, line of suggestions for you. I wrote an article about that. If you want to get a copy of it, you can email me, info@ZaZaAli.com, and I will send it to you. It's a 2-page, recommendation of resources based on my research and the people that I follow who I respect that are also well researched on that topic. But chlorella, mullein leaf to fortify the lungs and the respiratory tract. The chlorella is for the heavy metal clay detox, and it's a superfood. Bentonite clay, calcium grade A, food grade bentonite clay. All clays are not created equally. And if you know where this bentonite clay comes from, it's actually volcanic ash. Okay, the ultimate final version, if you will, of what comes to be known as ash through the process of the volcanic eruptions, et cetera, et cetera. But all clays are not created equal. The only clay that I buy is from headtotoeproducts.com. And yeah, I've been on it for 10, 15 years. There's a book that accompanies it. I would highly recommend getting the book as well because it is a solvent for a lot of physical issues, but particular in terms of what we're talking about. Again, that heavy metal detox is critical. Cilantro. If you don't like to eat cilantro, you can also get it in a capsule, vegan capsule situation. I love eating cilantro, so I eat it all the time. Chia seeds also bind toxins and metal particulates within the body and flush them out. So adding them to your smoothies and drinks and yogurt, etc. Activated charcoal in capsule form, and then also like brushing your teeth with it as well. I said calcium grade A, food grade bentonite clay. Oil of oregano is critical right now. Black seed oil is critical right now. I said mullein leaf, right? So these are all of the things that I would recommend and all things that I take on a continuous basis. I'm not going to say I take every single thing on this list every day, but I take every single thing on this list like every week. Okay, for context. And when they spray more, I'm a little bit more, gung ho with it. And colloidal silver. The nasal spray, especially if you have sinus issues in the nostril area, in the throat. You go outside, like right now, I was outside earlier today, and I definitely, felt some mucus developing in my throat area. So I just, take the colloidal silver nasal spray a couple of times, and you can't take that all the time. You use it as a defense mechanism when you need it. That's not one of those things you take all the time. You can drink it as well. I would recommend both, but that's not something you take every day all the time. You take that for like 7 days and then stop. You know what I mean? And then just take it as needed. So yeah, the colloidal silver nasal spray as well as the throat and ginger shots. Obviously, the goal is to clear the mucus, to not have any pathways within the body blocked. So physical pathway would be like the throat, right? That's the actual pathway where you swallow food and it goes into the system. The ears are also a physical pathway. The energy pathways, which when I talked about the microcosmic orbit and the meridian points in the body when we were talking about acupuncture and acupressure in the yoga video, right? I hope you guys like that video because I really did enjoy doing that video. But so either the meridian points, right? The chakras, that's a energy pathway, right? So those areas being clear, that would be a spiritual focus. I'll get into more of this in more videos because I feel like I don't want to be like rambling and all over the place. But I'm just saying, like, oh, y'all, whew. And breath work. I cannot stress this enough. Yoga is so critical right now. And it doesn't have to be yoga. It can be qigong. It can be hiking in nature. It can be stretching. It can be martial arts. You gotta have something that is only yours, that's physical, that is centered around the breath, or that bridges the breath and the physical movement. I would say working out, but working out doesn't necessarily constitute that. A lot of times people are breathing their worst when they're working out. So something else that has a underlying spiritual connotation to it, I'll say that, is so critical right now. I don't know how people are functioning without yoga. I don't know how I'm functioning when I don't practice like I'm supposed to. And it doesn't have to be yoga again, but listen, we gotta, man, That breathing, that chi, that prana, that life force energy right now, harnessing that and being able to come back to the center is critical. And then fasting. I put a quote up on my Instagram page the other day that said, when the human body is hungry, it eats itself, does a cleansing process, removes all sick cells, cancer, aging cells, and what does it say? God, I can't read my writing. And all when the human body is hungry, it eats itself, does a cleansing process, removing all sick cells, cancer, aging cells, and something else to that effect, but I think you get the point. Fasting doesn't cost anything. If you want to, go get some fancy juices and whatnot, or have to get your, the things you want to use for the fast, but a water and tea fast is sufficient. I just finished a 5-day fast. Fasting right now is critical. In the Practical Steps to Health and Well-Being ebook that I told you guys about, that's also on sale for 50%. I talk about the different types of fasting. And so to give you a little bit of, nudge on different ways you can start the practice from the beginner stage, so to speak. So with all of that being said, let me see what I'm looking like on time. 1 hour and 35 minutes. I feel like I covered all bases though, and I wasn't redundant. You see my meeting with my client popped up there, putting all my business in the streets. Thank you very much, calendar. I think I made all of the points that I wanted to make. And the main thing, again, you saw the passage in the Bible that talked about the fearful. We have to find ways and tools and resources and methodologies and a place within ourselves that we can tap into, that we can go to stay off of the fear-based vibration. I'm doing a lot of content on social media right now for my campaign, obviously, because I'm operating with a whole different sense of urgency than the average person, just in terms of the not a chaotic sense of urgency, but like righteous urgency. You know what I mean? Reading the tea leaves type urgency, which is part of the reason for the timing of the campaign. But I'm also very conscientious that I'm not going to be able to be like forefront energetically like this when there's so much chaos and insanity and density in the bandwidth of social media. So I'm going to go hard in the paint for 6 weeks, or we're past 6 weeks now, but during this timeline for that goal of the campaign. And then also because I know it's necessary. God is always nudging me. I have a job to do. I'm doing it. That's why we're here. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to maintain my sanity and deal with the type of stuff that comes with having a strong opinion and talking about things that, make an NPC want to declare war on you. I talk about things that make NPCs or people operating in their lower nature want to declare war on me. Even if it's just in a comment. It's like you busting off shots. Mean-spirited things too. So I'm just saying, I can only remain in these spaces for so long while still maintaining my vibration and my frequency. Okay? So I hope you guys are valuing and appreciating the time and energy that I'm putting into all of this content and pouring into you. All right? All of the information that I talked about in the beginning of the video will be in the description. I will see you guys very soon. My voice is cracking because it's a lot, but it's all good. I love and appreciate you guys, and thank you so much I love and appreciate those of you guys that love and appreciate me. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I will see you beautiful people very soon. Peace and love.